Hey folks, great news to report regarding the war on wokeism. Which is to say, Team Normal just notched another big win against the barbarians who comprise the cancel culture mobs. And to think it all centered on an ad campaign launched by American Eagle Outfitters, Inc., featuring actress-producer Sydney Sweeney, promoting denim jeans. Did you know that Sydney Sweeney will be producing and starring in the upcoming Barbarella reboot? Oh, please, please, Sydney, I beg of you, don't delete the excessive machine scene from the 1968 original. Anyway, there's nothing new about blonde bombshells being recruited to move the merchandise. From Marilyn Monroe endorsing Lustre Cream shampoo back in the 50s to Anna Nicole Smith serving as the Guess Jeans girl in 1992. Sex sells, as the old adage goes. But that was then, and this is now. Alas, in these awful woke times in which we reside, the American Eagle campaign featuring Sydney Sweeney triggered the lunatic fringe big time for preposterous reasons. And the microaggressions they suffered had almost everything to do with a line of ad copy which read, "Sydney Sweeney has great jeans." That's meant to be a clever play on words, of course. You know, jeans with a J replacing jeans with a G. And that's the thing when it comes to the real world. Some people have good genes with a G, and some do not. Yeah, it's unfair, I suppose, but that's the nature of things. And as much as I'd love to be the starting center for the Toronto Raptors, I just don't have what it takes gene-wise, and besides, white men can't jump. Speaking of whiteness, this was another reason that the woke left lost their collective minds regarding the American Eagle campaign. And yes, I speak of those de rigueur, obese, blue-haired cat ladies whose only workout comes via pounding out tweets of outrage via their laptops. Sydney Sweeney is many things, but the fact that she's Caucasian makes the American Eagle ad racist, you see. To the woke mob, the posters depicting Sydney in denim was clearly channeling white supremacy and even Nazi-inspired eugenics. And the fact that Sydney is also cursed with big, beautiful blue eyes, well, that pretty much makes her the poster child for the Aryan race, doesn't it now? But that's the thing about this manufactured controversy. If American Eagle had used a beautiful black or Hispanic or Asian model for its poster campaign and used the exact same copy, nobody would have said anything. In fact, it would have likely been praised for its diversity. But white is not right when it comes to the loony left, even the Caucasian members of the loony left. And so the ad was slammed as being racist, even though when you think this through, it is Sweeney's critics who are the racists for attacking her based on skin color. Now, it's important to note that it was really only the lunatic fringe that was losing their collective marbles over this. You know, those sad, soy-fueled psychos who seemingly exist to be offended by imaginary microaggressions. And naturally, mainstream, lamestream media was only too happy to provide a sounding board. Now, at this point, I want to quote some excerpts from the UK's Guardian newspaper. The Guardian story was typical of how the left-wing media covered this story. The headline reads, quote, "Born in the USA, is American Eagle really using whiteness to sell jeans?" End quote. You know, the truly remarkable thing about that headline, folks, given the Guardian's reputation, is that it is presented in the form of a question rather than a statement of fact. Oh, by the way, the accompanying sidebar story is headlined, quote, "The Invention of Whiteness, the Long History of a Dangerous Idea," end quote. Hey, my fellow honkies and crackers, did you know you were invented and that you're dangerous? The Guardian story quotes Sophie Gilbert, a staff writer at The Atlantic and author of Girl on Girl, a book which explores how pop culture is shaped by misogyny, which is really odd, given that, and please folks, don't ask me how I know this, but the term girl on girl actually refers to a genre of pornography. But never mind. Gilbert states the following quote, "The slogan Sydney Sweeney has good genes obviously winks at the obsession with eugenics that is so prevalent among the modern right," end quote. Got that? Oh, I know you thought being a conservative was all about embracing an ideology that seeks to promote and preserve traditional institutions and customs and values, you know, like the benefits of a nuclear family. Who knew that part of the hidden agenda of conservatives was pining for the good old days when the KKK carried out lynching and the idea of eugenics was actually a thing? At this point, it's fact check time, folks. The left seems to be obsessed with eugenics, but did you know that former NDP leader and the man credited for socialized medicine in Canada, Tommy Douglas, was a huge proponent of eugenics? According to the Canadian Encyclopedia, Douglas in 1933 received a Master of Arts in Sociology from McMaster University for his thesis, "The Problems of the Subnormal Family." In the thesis, Douglas recommended several eugenic policies, including the sterilization of mental defectives and those incurably diseased. Gee, now that I think of it, maybe Douglas was simply ahead of the curve, given that our own current Liberal government loves the idea of medical assistance in dying. Oh, and Douglas was also a supporter of segregation. And yet, in our great Dominion, we have statues of Tommy Douglas. We have schools named after Tommy Douglas. And in 2004, Tommy Douglas was voted as the greatest Canadian of all time as part of a CBC TV series. Go figure. Moving on, The Guardian quotes Dr. Sarah Sefai, a senior lecturer in gender and cultural studies at Goldsmiths University of London. Dr. Sefai naturally agrees with Gilbert, quote, "Honestly, what were they thinking that a white supremacist fantasy has permission to be aired so conspicuously," end quote. Whew. But as they used to say on those Ronco ads, but wait, there's more. The Guardian trots out Aria Halliday. She's an associate professor in gender and women's studies, African American and Africana studies, and author of By Black, How Black Women Transformed U.S. Pop Culture. Here's what Halliday says, quote, "In recent years, we have seen an influx of media reasserting the beauty of thin, white, blonde, and blue-eyed people, with many brands invested in representing the wholesomeness and sanctity of conservative white values," end quote. Oh no, you mean not only whiteness, but thinness too? You know, folks, I'm experiencing deja vu here. Aria Halliday very much reminds me of Jill Andrew, who until last year was actually an Ontario MPP. But back in 2017, she slammed the Toronto Transit Commission for running a beautiful ad campaign featuring ballet performers who were, well, you guessed it, physically fit and, for the most part, white. Check out an excerpt of a monologue I recorded back then.
Oh goody, Jill Andrew, the anti-body shaming crusader, is at it again. This time, Jill's upset with an ad campaign running in Toronto's public transit system. The offending ads are for the National Ballet of Canada, and it showcases dancers doing their shtick in and around transit vehicles. So, what's not to love? Well, according to our plus-size social justice warrior, this ad campaign promotes unhealthy body image stereotypes. Yeah, imagine that. photographs depicting physically fit dancers is somehow triggering Jill Andrew. Now, before I get into the nitty-gritty details, astute viewers of The Rebel might recall that we featured Jill in this space several months ago. Jill's the co-founder of something called the Body Confidence Canada Awards. When we last checked in on Jill the Thrill, she was meeting with the Ontario Human Rights Commissioner to discuss possible changes to the Ontario Human Rights Code. Jill wants to make it illegal to discriminate against a person due to their weight, size, or body shape. In any event, here's a clip of Jill in action when she delivered a speech on fat shaming and what she calls the thin epidemic.
I have come to see now just how fat and black embodiment, how excesses of fatness and blackness make some people uncomfortable, especially those who were born and raised on the milk and honey, the Western comforts of Eurocentric and thin-centric body and beauty ideals.
Yikes. But fear not, folks, because Jill does have some tips on how to combat Eurocentric fat shaming.
One of the tips is, when I get out of the shower, buck naked, I just stand there and say, in my best Broadway voice, I'm a big, bright, shining star, and I'm gonna shine forever.
I think I feel my white privilege shrinking right now.
You know, how in blue hell does a kook like that get elected and then re-elected? Moving on, The Guardian then embraces a type of reverse body shaming against Sweeney, noting, quote, critics have also zeroed in on the campaign's focus on Sweeney's body. In one clip, the camera zooms in on the actor's breasts, lingering in a way that Gilbert sees as leering and unapologetic, end quote. Oh my God in heaven, the camera focused in on the body of a model who has magnificent mammary glands? But wait a minute, isn't that the very point of being a model? You know, being the subject of the camera's lens? Another thing, as a heterosexual male with passable eyesight, I find Sydney Sweeney to be drop-dead gorgeous. I would imagine millions of others do also, both male and female. But why are her critics slamming her due to her impressive bust line? Again, I thought body shaming was offside these days. And secondly, the loony left had nothing but adoration for Carrie Lemieux. He's the male nut bar shop teacher who donned fake Z-cup breasts in order to present himself as a grotesque caricature of a female. Can someone kindly explain what the rules are when it comes to beauty and femininity? At this stage, I must point out a very important theme when it comes to the manufactured Sydney Sweeney controversy, which is to say the vast majority of attacks Sweeney is receiving are not coming from men. No, it is her fellow women who are responsible for this freak out. Don't you find that odd? That the left is obsessed with so-called toxic masculinity, that the left believes toxic masculinity is the biggest clear and present danger when it comes to women. But I say it ain't so. I think the biggest threat to womanhood these days is toxic femininity. Indeed, who do you think the biggest cheerleaders are for so-called trans women? You know, those biological men pretending to be women? Oh, it's not men. No, it's women. Be it female sports, female change rooms, female bathrooms, female shelters, and even female prisons. It is almost always the woke and indoctrinated women who are leading the charge for the ongoing invasion of female safe spaces.